Good morning, C3. My name is Jason Strickling. I'm one of the pastors here. It's good to see you in West or wherever you're tuning in at. We're in the middle of a series called Home Front, and today we're going to talk about something that you may never have heard about in church because, of course, as we know, all good Christians don't fight, and certainly good Christian families don't fight. Of course we fight. We're going to talk about fighting with my family, and if you've never heard that talked about in church or you think, well, goodness, maybe I'm in the wrong place, stick around. We got some things that hopefully will get us all on the same page. We fight in our house over all kinds of things. I laugh about the things we fought about yesterday, even though they seemed pretty serious at the moment. But it helps when we're in the middle of a fight, and hopefully fights at your house too, if you can think about it for just a second, to stop and to step back from the issue and to just get a different point of view, like this.
Hi, Daddy.
Okay, PC.
Yeah?
We are leaving in 10 minutes.
Yes.
Why are you wearing shorts?
It's not cold.
It's 28 degrees.
No, it isn't.
Yes,
No, it isn't.
Also, put on your shoes. Honey?
I don't know where they are. I don't know where they are.
Okay, where did you look?
I looked everywhere.
How about in your room? Okay, buddy.
What?
Do you have your shoes on?
They aren't up here.
What do you mean? I saw them this morning. I have to do everything here. Okay, buddy.
What?
You don't see your shoes?
I can't find them and I looked everywhere.
Show me how you looked for them. Did you tilt your head down to the floor? Because they are literally 5 inches away from your feet.
Oh, there they are.
I'm going downstairs.
Okay. What are you reading about?
This winter storm. Did you put on your shoes?
We're learning about meteorology in science class.
That's great, honey.
Do you know the difference between climate and temperature?
I do.
Temperature is what it is now, and climate is what it is over an extended period of time.
Yeah, dude, put on your shoes.
We made a chart about the difference between climate and temperature. It's in here somewhere. Let me see. No. I think I left it at school.
I'm gonna get more coffee. Your shoes better be on when I get back.
Daddy?
What?
You said to put my shoes on, and they are on me now.
Are you serious right now? We now have 2 minutes. Come on. PC!
Okay, they're on.
Those are the wrong shoes.
No, they're not.
Those are flip-flops. You need sneakers.
I can't undo the laces. They're too tight.
Did you pull them really hard and they got tangled?
No.
Instead of loosening them?
No.
Really?
No.
PC,
Yes.
give them to me. Okay, well then, just put them on.
These socks are itchy.
What?
There's one pair that isn't itchy.
There's one pair from your entire drawer.
I can't find them. Oh, here they are.
Dude, you have 1 minute.
Got it.
Okay, we are officially late. Where are you?
I'm in the attic.
What?
I'm on the trampoline.
Get in the car!
I'm back in bed.
No!
I'm in the middle of the street.
Car, now!
I'm in a tree.
Where?
I'm orbiting the Earth, Daddy.
Really?
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, let's go. We are like 10 minutes late.
It's too cold.
That was literally the first thing I said this morning.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
I don't care. We're leaving. Get your seatbelt on.
Daddy?
Yeah?
You know this is a virtual day, right?
A little close to home, that one for me. And it can be exhausting, right? We know how fighting goes. Sometimes you just feel like you're fighting the same battle over and over and over again. And when's this going to stop? And when are they going to learn? And when are they going to get their act straight? And it could be a whole host of issues. You know, I recognize that the people under your roof, that's all different flavors these size of days. We got mixed families, blended families, multi-generational families, and all this. But at some point, we got to have some room to stand and to land. And so that's why we're here today, is to talk about that, because I do have some good news for the people who are tired, from the people who are exhausted of the drama. Whatever the drama is under your roof, we need to be able to talk about that, because I do have 3 fundamental biblical habits that I want us to be able to look at to try and mitigate some of the drama and to prevent some of it and to be able to tackle things head on. The way I want to do that is to use a healthy dose of Scripture, because as we're going to see, this is a spiritual battle. This is a spiritual issue. And so we fight spiritual battles with spiritual resources. And the Bible is a great way to do that, because God speaks into the middle of families. God has a heart for the family. If I was going to sum it up, though, out of all of the scriptures that we're going to look at today, I would sum it up this way. Based on the scriptures that we'll see today, healthy families fight fair. It's not whether they fight or not. They do. They fight. And sometimes they fight harder for the things that are important, but they fight fair. Your family needs to be able to fight and to focus those fights, but to do so fairly. Okay? So we're going to look at that from a lot of different scriptures. So here's the first one I want to look at, is from Ephesians chapter 6. This kind of frames the whole thing. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood. Okay? You think it's about the people under your roof, but it's bigger than that. Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And some of you are thinking, oh, this person must have met my in-laws. It's bigger than that even, okay? There are spiritual forces at work in the midst of conflict. And those conflicts, it's not that they're all unavoidable. Those conflicts are a perfect ground to grow your faith and to grow your family's faith. But it makes a big difference in what we address and how we address it. And so we want to take a serious look at that today. I'm just going to come at us with 3 habits that we can focus on. And I'm going to work more kind of from a preventative standpoint. There's all kinds of great books that talk about strategies in the middle of things, but I want to back the conversation up and talk first of all about picking your battles. This is the first habit that I want you to just get in your mind right now and begin to evaluate your relationships and think about what it would mean in your family to pick your battles. I think of it this way. You have a string of lights in your house, let's say. We have a string of lights. There they are. You got a string of lights in your house hanging up somewhere, and a bulb burns out. Well, what do you usually do? Well, if the bulb burns out, you go replace that bulb. Yeah, but let's say 2 days later, that same bulb burns out. You might replace it again, but if it happens a third time, what do? You don't keep replacing bulbs. There's something else going on, okay? So here's how this works out in families with conflict. A lot of therapists will tell you that the person sitting in front of them in their office is what's called the identified patient. They're not necessarily the person with all the problems. They're just the ones who are acting out, who are demonstrating it, who don't know how to cope with whatever else might be going on under their roof. And so they're up to no good, right? And so we say, well, if we just fix Johnny, then all of our problems will go away. When maybe Johnny's not the problem. Maybe Johnny is dealing with a symptom of a greater problem, okay? So when we think about strategies and habits, spiritual weapons that we can employ to help when families are fighting, one of those things is to pick your battles. Because here's the deal. There's a big difference between avoiding conflict and preventing it. Avoiding conflict. Every house has what's called the elephant in the room. Some big issue that, it just feels insurmountable. We don't know how to talk about it. We don't know how to deal with it. So we're going to maybe pretend like it's not there, or we're going to blame it on somebody and make them the identified patient. We're going to do something else besides deal with it, okay? Or we can take a step back and say, what could we do to prevent this issue in the first place, okay? So we really want to think about what it means to prevent these things, because avoiding is not the same as preventing, okay? Not dealing with it is not dealing with it, okay? We need to be able to employ some things that are really going to make a difference. So the first thing we're going to do when we talk about picking your battles is to prioritize the marriage relationship. Now, you single people are going, well, I'm not married, so what do I do? Hang on a second, I'll tell you. Okay, but you married folks, listen up. You got to prioritize your marriage relationship. It's not, am I going to fight with my spouse or not? I actually worry about the ones that say, oh, we never fight. Somebody's unhappy, okay? Healthy families fight fair, okay? So wives and husbands, absolutely, but you fight together first. You fight together first. Let's look at some scriptures that really dive into why this is so important. I want to look at Matthew's Gospel, chapter 19. This is Jesus talking. The Pharisees were always trying to trap Jesus in some answer that they could say, oh, that's not quite right. And he was always so good at putting the conversation back in their court and really raising the bar. So they're asking him about divorce. And Jesus comes right back to them and says, haven't you read that at the beginning the Creator made them male and female and said, for this reason, a man will leave his father and mother and be united to his wife. And he continues, and the two will become one flesh. So they are no longer two, but one flesh. Therefore, what God has joined together, let no one separate. Jesus had a pretty high view of marriage. Okay? God makes a big deal about marriage, the two becoming one. How is that even possible? Okay? Puts a high priority on the marriage relationship. Warts and all, okay? But let's see what Paul says a little later on. This one's always kind of hot with couples who have heard these scripture passages, and particularly this very first word I'm going to use that some of you are already cringing because you might have some baggage associated, but I just want to read it, okay? Blame the Bible. I didn't write this stuff. Listen to what Paul says. Submit to one another. Now, some of you have never heard that part because guys like to put both feet on the gas with the next part about wives submitting to the husband. But Paul starts by saying, submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. Not because the other person hasn't been nagging a little bit or because you think you're right. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. And then he says, wives, submit yourselves to your own husband, not to somebody else's husband, as you do to the Lord. Okay, so do you see the connection there between spiritual relationship, human relationship? If you're trying to do this right without having this dialed in, you're going to struggle. It's not meant to be that way. The two are meant to be harmonious so that your relationship with God makes it easier to do difficult things person to person. Do you understand? Okay, let's go on here. For the husband is the head of the wife, as Christ is the head of the church, his body, of which he is the Savior. Okay, so we have to see this for what it is. You're not just responding to another person. You're responding to another person as if they are the Lord, okay? There is a love relationship there that also has a high degree of respect. Let's see what else is happening here. Now, as the church submits to Christ, so also wives should submit to their husbands in everything. And again, you've heard it 3 times now, this word submit. If you don't like that word, let's find a different word, okay? Defer. What does it mean to defer to another person? Does it mean always cowering, yielding, oh, whatever you say? No. It means, okay, we have a chance to talk about things that are important. I can disagree. I can have an opinion. Husbands, if you don't know what your wife's opinion or get her advice on things, you got some work to do, okay? They're strong in your relationship. They must be, okay? But at some point, somebody got to make a decision. And what Paul's saying is, wives, speak your piece. Absolutely. Voice your opinion. Be strong. Give good wisdom to your husband, but defer. That takes strength of character. That is not weakness, okay? That's what Paul's inviting you to do in this. Can you fight? Absolutely. You should fight. First with your spouse about anything you want. We had a big blow up the other week about which way forks go in the dishwasher. And I won't say who won, but let's just say that the correct answer is tines down, okay? I hear that. All right, let's keep going with this one. Paul's got more to say. He's got way more to say to husbands, by the way, than to wives. Husbands, love your wives. You know, guys need respect more than women do characteristically, and wives need love more. So this is what he's encouraging us to do. Love your wives. How? Just conditionally? just when the lovin's good or when she cooks the right meal or what. No. Just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word. And he keeps going. Guys, we're slow. We need more. And to present her to himself as a radiant church without stain or wrinkle or any other blemish, but holy and blameless. Listen, this is how it's meant to work. Wives, you show respect to your husband through submission. That's how you show him respect. Okay? Now, any guy worth his salt is going to understand that women are strong. Okay? And that's not just a given. But I've never met a couple where that isn't in place that it goes badly. There's mutual respect there because the husband understands she doesn't have to, and she is. Okay? That's strong. That's strong. And it's attractive. Husbands love and respect their wives through their sacrifice. That means putting your ego aside. That means getting over yourself. That means if you're wrong, and you say so, and you move forward, okay? You give your life to your wife. You give your life for her, not just with lip service, but for your actions. And you will risk arguing. Not just saying, well, do it because I'm the man of the house. Don't ever use that. Please. Sacrifice for her, love her, show her that you care, that even if you disagree and you have to make a tough choice, that you're doing so out of love and not for any other reason. Okay? But you start here. Now, let's invite the single people back into this conversation. By saying, single people, stay out of married people's fights. Stay out. Married people, don't invite other people into your conversations that you disagree on. Do not do that. You start there. I do a lot of premarriage counseling, especially this time of year as people are trying to get their summer weddings all lined out. And I tell them over and over again, your relationship with your spouse is the most important human relationship you will ever have. They deserve your best. Even when you disagree, your best strategies, your best tactics, your best efforts when there's disagreement. And of course there's going to be disagreements. There's always the toilet paper over or under and the toothpaste tube in the middle or rolled up. And see me afterwards. I have all the right answers to that stuff. But you start there, okay? Couples have split for less because you know what happens? They have a little tiff and they run to mommy. Oh, I heard you. Parents, when you let them go, stay out. Friends, when your friends get married, stay out of their drama. Stay out of their fights. And couples, listen to me. Don't invite anybody else in until you work it out first. You got to go see a counselor. That's fine. You work it through it first with your spouse. If you need help, you need help. But you know what the running outside turns into? It's called triangulation, which sounds a lot like strangulation, which is usually what happens if you bring another person into a fight that isn't yours, okay? And then you'll rub them out and walk away, and all you've done is ruin a relationship, okay? Husbands and wives, you must prioritize your marriage relationship out of respect and out of love. You are protecting what God has put together, okay? And if people aren't minding their business, or they won't stay out, or they won't shut up, or they're giving you all kinds of advice, let them know. Let them know. You don't have to be mad about it, but just draw the lines and say, sorry, this is not yours, okay? Please stay out. You're not invited to this conversation, okay? And the other way around, do not invite people in. It is no good. Do not sit there and passive-aggressively post in all caps on Facebook what your spouse is or isn't doing for you. Do not do that. You are not helping, okay? Keep it between the two of you. Now, house is divided maybe a little bit as to whether or not parents should fight in front of children. If you can behave, you should, because of what I'm going to say here in a little bit about modeling for them. If you can't mind yourself and you know it's going to be gloves off and there's going to be tears and whatever, you ought maybe keep the kids away when you're going to do that, okay? But do not go outside the marriage relationship for these things first. You start inside the marriage. Okay, so what do parents do, right? We're trying to find these healthy habits to help families to fight, to prevent some of the fights. Parents' job, just like the husband and wife, is to love and respect one another. The parents' job is to train their children, not to become their buddies. You train your children, but you do so not with lip service, but through modeling. Parents' job is to train your children through modeling. A lot of friction in households where it's do as I say, not as I do. And of course the kids are going to be confused. Oh my goodness, and there's going to be struggle. There's going to be conflict. Parents don't see their authoritative role in the right perspective as not just what I am saying, but how I am living it out as you are watching everything I do. Because guess what? At some point, you're supposed to get them out of the house. That's the goal. Some of you didn't know that, but the goal is to get them out and successfully launch your children. And what in the world are they going to do if you haven't modeled anything for them? Okay? Serious stuff. And you've just got a small window of time. I'm about halfway done now. I cannot believe it that so much time has passed, and I've got a very short time before my kids are going to head out. And so I feel the heat turning up as the years go by. But look at the scripture that comes with this. Parents, I love this one and I hate it too. Parents, do not exasperate your children. Instead, bring them up in the training and the instruction of the Lord. You know what it means to exasperate? It means to annoy, to irritate, to provoke to the point of amping your kids up. Your kids are not in a power position in your house. They shouldn't be. Some houses, I think they control everything, and that's not right either. That's a different sermon. But you can, and parents, we know how to do this, right? We can ratchet them up just like they know how to push our buttons, but they're not in the power position. You are. Do not exasperate your children, but bring them up in the knowledge and the instruction of the Lord. You have to set the example, not with lip service, but with modeling, with character. But make your kids follow you around and just watch how it works, okay? Warts and all. They need to see that you can mess up and make a mistake and that it's not the end of the world. We had to do a little drywall repair at my house yesterday. I am banned from DIY projects at my house. I'm not allowed to do them, okay? I had to call in help because I needed to see how it was done. And I made my son stand right there and watch me watching here so we could both learn, okay? I'm training him as much to ask for help as I am to do everything by himself. Do you understand? They have to see it all. They have to see it all. And that is our job. And you know what? We didn't fight about it as a result. We could have really made this be a really divisive issue, and we didn't, because I chose to just let him follow along and to watch and to use that as a training opportunity for the future. You know who this guy is? You maybe have seen him on TV over the years. You know him? Yeah, who is that? Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer. Yeah, okay. I love this guy. I wish I would have had his teaching before I actually had a dog years ago. Might still have that dog. What does he do? He comes in where the dog is acting up. And he rehabilitates the dog, but he trains the owners, doesn't he? He has 3 simple things that he sets out all the time. Rules, boundaries, limitations, okay? Parents, that is your job in all the midst of the modeling, is to set up some rules and boundaries and limitations. You ought not do that for the kids without doing it for yourself. Exercising self-discipline. I was just having a conversation in between services, and the person I was talking with, we agreed that children actually are setting a better example than a lot of adults these days. Adults have just gotten ornery this year. And the kids are the ones who are really sort of taking us to task and showing us how it ought to be. But it's okay. It's okay to set up rules and boundaries and limitations and to be willing to live by them yourself so that the kids aren't confused. And there ought to be consequences when they step outside of those things. The punishment should fit the crime. But that's your job. Okay? If you're having conflict because those things aren't happening, well, doctor, heal thyself. Okay? This is the wisdom from God's word for God's people, right? Take it to heart, look in the mirror and say, okay, what part do I play in whatever drama might be getting stirred up? Is there something that I need to do differently before I just tell my kid to shape up? Okay? Children, Now, by the way, children doesn't have an expiration date. We're going to talk about the two sides of this thing. But Paul says in Ephesians 6, after parents honor their parents through their conduct, here's how he describes that. He says, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Okay, the obvious assumption there is this is children in the house. When you're grown and you're out of the house, you don't have to obey your parents like that, which should be incentive for you students to move out of your parents' house at some point. They might like that. Some don't. Some really want to hang on to that because they like being able to tell their kids what to do. And when they leave, they really struggle with that. That can come from both ways. But what he goes on to say, for this is right. And then he quotes from the Old Testament, the Ten Commandments. Honor your father and mother, which is the first commandment, with a promise that it may go well with you and that you may enjoy long life on the earth. This is more about your character and your conduct than it is about changing another person. Children of all ages, okay? Honor your father and mother. There's no expiration date on that. Yes, children demonstrate that early on through their conduct, through their obedience, through their compliance. Children are not allowed unnecessarily to grumble and complain without obedience. Pastor Mark says it so well over the years. Delayed obedience is disobedience. There's a standard there, okay? But kids, listen, I have never met parents who came to me and says, Pastor, I have a problem. My kids honor me way too much. The respect, the admiration, the compliance, it's exhausting. What do we do? Never had that conversation, okay? Students, you want freedom in your life, show some respect. You wonder, it's not automatic, it's not entitled. You got to step up and earn that stuff, and you do so with your own conduct. Listen to this other verse. Paul talking to Timothy, who was just getting a start as a young man. He says, don't let anyone look down on you because you are young, okay? You're never too young to start putting this stuff in place. But set an example for the believers in speech, in conduct, in love, in faith, and in purity, okay? I know a lot of stories around here of students who are leading by example in their own families, and I wish for you that your parents would get on board, but for now it's yours, with the understanding that even after you leave, you still honor your father and mother through your conduct. I was with a family here recently, and the daughter was talking about what a privilege it was to lay aside her career ambitions to take care of her ailing parents. To the point of tears, she was so honored to be able to do that. And I thought of this verse immediately, and I said, sister, listen, this is good for you, that your days may be long on the earth, and that it may go well with you. Okay, it matters for you. It's not whether the other person is right or wrong, it's what's it doing for you. And there is no expiration date on that. We see that one through all the way to the end, even if your parents are gone. Okay, a lifelong pursuit to honor your father and your mother through your conduct. Well, let's keep going. Second habit we want to look at is to practice effective communication. Effective communication. Look at Proverbs. It says, a gentle anger turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. You got a lot of anger in your house? How you talking? I know when there's anger in my house, the temperature goes up, right? It's harder to do the gentle answer, but it's the right thing to do too. Look at James. Everyone under your roof should be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. Oh my gosh, is that so hard? Because we know how to hurt each other, don't we? We know the right buttons to push. We know the thing to say or to not to say, to just dump kerosene on that fire. James says just the opposite, okay? Here's how we're going to do it, two ways. We're going to use actual words. Some of you are masters at the silent treatment. You're masters at stonewalling. How's everything going? Oh, fine. That's a death sentence to a husband if he hears those words coming out of his wife's mouth. Not fine. All right? We're going to use actual words. When you do this, I feel this way because, okay? That's actual words. Delete the expletives, keep the volume down. Okay? We're going to use actual words. We're going to talk about what's going on, not be quiet and hope that it goes away. That does not work, okay? It's messy. My wife has had to teach me that it's okay to say things a little bit wrong on the way to getting it right. Okay, I want to have it all pressed and polished before I utter a word. And she says, no, how am I going to know what we're working about, what we're working on if you don't talk about things? So we have to use actual words. We got to employ active listening. Active listening. This is as soon as I saw this on the internet, I was like, oh man, way too many homes dealing with this. You think those parents are active listening right now? No way, baby. I got called to the carpet by my daughter. This has probably been a year or two ago. She's talking about her day at school, and my ears were listening, but nothing else was listening. I'm running around the kitchen, around the house. I think I even went out into the garage while she was talking. But the door was open. And I thought, oh, good acoustics. I can still kind of pick up what she's saying. Didn't make sense, but whatever. I come back in the room, and she goes, Daddy, hear me. Well, guess what she'd been learning about at school? Effective communication, right? And active listening and what that means. And everything about what I was doing said, I am not listening to you, even if my ears were. Well, she didn't know that. You perceive what you receive. And what she was receiving from me is, I'm not listening, which meant I don't care. And that's where she stopped me in my tracks, said, hear me. And I had to stop what I was doing. I mean, haven't we learned anything this last year with all the mask stuff about the importance of eye contact? How important that is in establishing good communication and building a relationship that says, I am interested in what you're saying and in who you are. Okay, you can nod. You can use some body language to communicate, I'm into what you're saying. And the 3 magic words that I love at our house, tell me more. Oh, it's like gold. Try it sometime, you'll see. All right? Effective communication. We're going to use actual words and we're going to employ active listening. Last thing we're going to do is pursue resolution. We're not just going to let the issues go on and on and on. We're not going to pursue endless drama. There's some of this stuff you just need to let it go anyways because it's not a priority relationship. You're draining an exorbitant amount of your emotional currency and emotional budget on fights that don't even belong to you, that don't help maintain the integrity of your marriage, your soul, your children, your house, okay? So you got to draw the lines on that. But inside of those relationships, you have to pursue resolution. There has to be an end point. Not rolling over people and not just laying back and going, oh, whatever. Well, that just creates resentment. Nothing good happens there. What does Paul say in Romans 12? If it is possible, sometimes it's not, but if it is possible, as far as it depends on who? Circumstances? Other people? On you. Live at peace with everyone. That's an all skate. That goes for everybody in your house, to pursue resolution. So what does that mean? That means that we're going to extend and seek forgiveness. We're going to say we're sorry if we've messed up. We're going to extend forgiveness. If somebody apologizes, we're going to forgive them. Parents are going to forgive their children. Children are going to forgive their parents. Husbands are going to forgive wives. Wives are going to forgive husbands. We're going to do this stuff because that is what is about. Not just to rile things up, not just to have a hot argument and then be mad at each other and do all the crazy dysfunctional things that people do. We're going to find an end point, and forgiveness is that end point that helps us move forward. Because the idea is to care more about relationships than about being right. Okay? You have to care more about your relationships than about being right. I have to care about that in my house. Here's our most recent family picture we took. A lot of gag rolls in our house on the way to getting a picture we can send to the grandparents. Actually, I think we did send them this picture as our greeting card one year. I have to remind myself, I keep this picture as a screensaver on my computer, actually. I have to remind myself that for whatever the argument is, I'm not just fighting with them, I'm fighting for them. People under your roof aren't just the people you're fighting with, it's the people you're fighting for. I'm fighting for this one. Middle schooler, it's still just all brand new, daily. I'm not going to get into all the weeds, but This one over here, she's 10 going on 20. That's all sorts of fun. And this one, she's perfect. That's its own cross to bear. But this guy, he's the one that needs the most work. Because I know him pretty well. I know the chinks in his armor. I know his temper. I know his impatience. I know his perfectionist streak that is exhausting on the rest of them. All right, I got to work on him. But you know what? Some days I just don't feel up for it. Maybe you don't feel up for it sometimes too. You're going to throw in the towel. You say, enough. I'm done. I am done. Don't do that. Don't do that. Because you don't have to. And listen. If we don't do this stuff God's way, there's only two ways this is going to run. You're either going to leave a legacy of pain or you're going to leave a legacy of peace. And which is it going to be? People who have peace at the end don't have perfect relationships. They have relationships that they have worked on and fought for. Pain is the other way. Pain is the other way. Now, I may be ringing a bell for you this morning and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to tighten up the boundaries. I got to reprioritize the relationships under my roof. I got to focus in on those things. Or maybe you just realize, like I did with my daughter, I am garbage at communication in my home. I'm a professional listener, for goodness sake, but I get home and the rules are all different for some reason. We got to stay focused on those things. And at some point, friends, we cannot just keep going and going and going. We got to work towards resolution and wrap those conflicts up. Reach a decision, even if it's messy, even if there's a little bit of hurt along the way that you got to clean up. Work towards the resolution. And don't give up. Don't you give up. It may be tough. I hear your stories. I hear your struggles. We read those connection cards. You are in the fight of your life, some of you, with your marriage, with your kids, with your parents, with your siblings, whatever. You pick up that towel. You see the fighters in the ring. What do? They wipe off their brow and they get back in the fight. Your marriage is worth fighting for. Your kids are worth fighting for. Your parents are worth fighting for. Those relationships under your roof are worth fighting for. You know why? Because Jesus picked up the towel. And he fought for you. He gave his life for you so that you could carry the towel too. I'm going to pray and ask for God's help. Lord, thank you for the grace you give us along the way. We know our faults and our failings, and we know the faults and failings of others. But God, help us to focus on your grace first. Your attitude of service and love, of endurance, of perseverance that says there is a way forward, but sometimes we got to go through. God, for those of you those in this room and watching online that are ready to throw in the towel, God, would you give them a vision of you, first of all, and your long suffering for us, your willingness to be in relationship with us. And God, if there's anybody listening who's trying to do this on their own, God, just rob them of that mentality. Remind them that your grace is sufficient, that you have done the work to give us the tools that we need, these spiritual weapons to fight spiritual battles and to win. God, because when we do things your way, we do win. And our marriages win. And our kids win. And heaven wins. God, thank you for the victory that is ours through your son Jesus. We praise and thank you and love you. It's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much for joining us this morning on C3 Tri-Cities Online. We're so glad that you were a part of this service this morning. If you want to continue to engage with us during the week, you can jump on our Facebook page, or you could go to @C3 Tri-Cities on Instagram. We'd love to have you a part of that and see what's going on. Different things are happening this summer, and that's a great way to connect with us. Thanks for being here again, and have a great week.